Greetings and welcome to Camilo Post coverage of election 2020. Those of you that have followed over the last many years as we approach election day, usually in the weeks coming up, I share where I think we are, where polls and other stats are moving us. And normally I write it out with pictures on a blog, but haven't been filling the blog. So I'm going to do it in a video. I think it'll be quicker. Let's go straight to here's the map, the Electoral College map. As I always say, it's not about, there's these polls right now that show, oh, Biden's beating Trump by 13 points, 12 points here, 8 points there, 9 points there nationwide, which is nice, but that's not really how the election is determined. It's the Electoral College votes state by state. And we've got our battleground states. And so I'm going to go over each battleground state and say how I think we're doing there, or how I think it's going to turn out. Minnesota is often classified as a battleground state. I don't see it as one right now. Republicans have not won there since 1984, and they got really close in 2016. But looking at the polls and the stats, Biden's way ahead. It's not even. It's not going red this year. It's not going to go for Trump again. Not this year. It didn't last time. So let's talk about the ones that are questions, and let's first come to why is this Nebraska like a weird zebra? So the yellow indicates battleground states, red being Republican, blue being Democrat. And because in Nebraska they have a separate district which has two electoral college votes, and that matters. Two electoral college votes does count. And and the thing is that in that primarily makes up Omaha. So let's take a look at how there we do have some data there. And very recently, as September 28th, this poll here shows Biden ahead by 7 points. Another one on September 18th, Biden ahead by 6 points. And if we look a little further down, we will see that and this is the thing, the polls you say, but Camilo, the polls got it all wrong last time, 2016, and they undersampled Republicans. They should have sampled more Republicans. Pollsters have learned from their mistakes. It doesn't mean this is a guarantee of what's going to happen. But the other thing that was missed in 2016 is the margin of error. People left out the margin of error, and that's the key here. You've got a poll says Biden is ahead by 7 points. The margin of error is 5.3 points. So he's still beating Trump even outside of the margin of error. In 2016 with Hillary Clinton in all of these states, it was very rarely outside of the margin of error. It was like, oh, she's up by 2, she's up by 3, she's up by 4. And the margin of error in those states was like 3 or 4 or 5. And so it was, that into account too. So we're going to pay attention to the margin of error in these polls as well. So I'm giving any two. I'm giving that to Biden. So now we go up to 234. Magic number is 270, okay? So let's take a look at Wisconsin. Wisconsin was always a Democratic state, pretty much, and but it went for Trump in 2016, and let's see how it's doing in 2020. And in 2020, we're looking at this polling data here. First of all, there's not a single poll since September 4th, going back a month, that Trump has been ahead in. The last few polls, have been 2 polls that were within the margin of error. They had Biden ahead. But then going back to the 24th, which was just a week and a half ago, we have this big poll here, 10 points ahead. The margin of error was 4.6. A poll before that, 9 points ahead. We don't know the margin of error, but I don't think it was 9 points. It was probably around 4 or 5. And we see this consistently here, even here back, Reuters Ipso, 4.5, and he was ahead 5. So 6 points, and the margin of error is 4.5. This big one, CNN on September 13th, 10 points ahead, and margin of error was 4.2. Overall, they're saying the spread is 5.2. That's what Real Clear Politics is saying. And if you take a look at if you take a look at what 538 says, they're saying right now Biden's ahead by is that 6.8, 6.8. So um, I am going to go. I don't. It's pretty clear. Wisconsin is going to go for Biden, um, and that's just how it is. Michigan is another state that went for Trump after being historically Democrat for the most part. So how's that going? Well, you know what? Michigan is going very interesting. Michigan, if you go back even much further than September, you'll find that um, Trump has hardly been ahead in any polls. This one poll he's ahead in is a Republican paid for poll, and it's within the margin of error. So let's go back. NBC Marist on the 22nd. Biden ahead 8 points, margin of error 4.3. Another 8 pointer from CNBC. We don't know the margin of error there. We've got one from MRG, whoever they are. That margin of error was 4, so you're still outside of the margin of error. Basically, continues to be outside of the margin of error all throughout the month of September, and even before that, he was well ahead in Michigan. So um, 538 has him 6.9 points over Trump, and it's just the data. It's not like it was in 2016. There wasn't this much of an advance on the Democrat side. So does not appear that Trump will win Michigan. Does not. So I'm switching that to the light blue. And we're up to 260 Electoral College votes. We just need 10 more to win the election. So Ohio has went for Trump. It went Republican in the last two elections, I believe. It was just the 2008 one that Obama won. But let's take a look at Ohio. What do we have with Ohio here? Ohio, we have a tie in the last CBS YouGov poll. We've got a Fox News one on the 23rd with Biden outside of the margin of error. Quinnipiac one just 1 point up, still within the margin of error. Another one, barely a point outside of the margin of error. Ohio, I've been there. I don't trust them. I don't feel that they're very Democrat, not anymore. So I don't trust them, and I know there's a lot of stuff going on there. So I'm going to leave that as a toss-up state that I just don't know how it's going to go. So that still leaves us with only 260 points or electoral college votes. So let's go somewhere else. Let's go to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, which it was a big shock when it went for Trump in 2016. How's Biden doing there? Well, Biden's doing really good there. He's doing better there in the end of September than he was at the beginning of September, and he's outside of the margin of error. Um, on average, he's at least 6 points ahead. Um, this it's just Trump can go there as much as he wants, but this time they're going back blue. They are. There's no. It would be very very surreal. For it's not again. It's not like 2016. It's not 4 points, 5 points ahead like it was with Hillary. It's not the same situation. So you know what? Pennsylvania comes back to the Democrats. Boom. We now have 280 points. Joe Biden wins the election, electoral college vote. Do we stop there? No. We have more states. So let's take a look at North Carolina, which didn't. I never really think of it as being. It's a very very purple state, but it's mostly, in my opinion, a Republican. But people like to talk about it, and let's see if I can find it on here. Here we go, North Carolina, and again we have a big topsy turvy here. Biden, there's no polls in which he's outside the margin of error here. And even though when you average everything together, he's 0.5, and I think that 538 found another poll that he was a high. So they have him 1.4 ahead. I say that's too close. I'm leaving North Carolina as a toss-up. So what next? Well, they're talking about Georgia. Georgia. I mean, that hasn't gone Democrat. Maybe. Did Jimmy Carter win it? Maybe. Somebody can tell me. I don't know. I don't remember. Um, let's find Georgia on here. Okay, Georgia. Another one. Trump's been winning it, except lately. There's actually one poll where by point 0.1 Biden's ahead outside of the margin of error. Another one that he's not, but it says he's ahead. There's been ties. There's been Trump ahead. There's been, and even 538 here says 0.6. So I say no. In fact, I so don't believe that Biden is going to win it that I'm actually going to give it to Donald Trump. So he gets up to 183 points. Now, what about Florida? Florida, the big famous Florida. That's the big you just don't know what's going to happen there. Well, for a long time, like since May, out of the last 30 polls, we had Biden winning almost all of them. Trump maybe winning only 4. Um, but lately, it's tightened up. It's tightened up, and Biden's been winning, but not well. Even this one on September 22nd, Biden by 3, margin of error is 1.8. So he's ahead of the margin of error there. And one on September 26th, he's not outside the margin of error. But the one that just came out, the big one from the New York Times that just came out this past weekend, and after the debates, has Biden ahead a little bit outside of the margin of error even. So Florida, I had high hopes for. Now, I'm not sure. It's going to be very close there. I'm not willing to take a gamble there. I'm leaving Florida in the undecided column. And last but not least is Arizona. Arizona has not voted for a Democratic president, a Democrat for president in many, many years. I don't remember when, but it's been a long time. And they appear on track to possibly do so. There's one poll back here on September 10th that had Biden up 10, margin of error was 4. Another one from New York Times Siena, Biden up 9, margin of error 4.1. And then a lot where it's within the margin of error, some that we don't have a margin of error for. He's up 3.1. But even, maybe I'm confusing Florida with Arizona's been very much like Florida, where for the last 5 months, Biden, there's been very few polls in the matchups that Trump was actually ahead of Biden. So there's been a lot of Democrats that have moved to Arizona as well. So I'm going to, this is my gamble here, but I'm going to take an educated, based on trends, and Mark Kelly's going to win big time for senator there, and Arizona is going to end up with 2 Democratic senators. But I'm going to go and give Arizona to the Democrats and give 291 Electoral College votes to Joe Biden. And these remaining ones are toss-ups, but it's already too late. Biden's won. And I think one of these, I'm not sure which one, if any of them, I'd bet on Florida, is going to go also to Biden. But that's where we are on the weekend of October 4th, general election 2020, Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. This has been Camilo Renovar for the Camilo Post, and I will be back in a week. Thank you. If I can figure out where to stop this. Oh, there we go.